Hi, and welcome to the Soundtrack for Education Educator crash course with a music focus. I'm Taylor, an education specialist and music teacher, and I'm going to help you get started. In this video, we're going to go through account setup for you and your students. Then we'll look at studio basics and help you create your first song. So the first thing that you'll want to do is obviously create your account, and then you'll invite students. In order to create your account, you should go to soundtrap.com/edu and select Start as Teacher. It should look something like this. Click that Start as Teacher button, and you'll get this screen which you can fill out and create your account. Once you've created your account, you'll want to invite your students. This is a really important step, and I encourage you to do this right away. So you'll go to the EDU admin tab, select Import Users, and choose your method, and it looks like this. You can see that first arrow pointing to EDU admin and the orange button for importing users, which will bring you to this screen. You can either share that link, or you can use one of the other options that we have here in order to get your students invited. Now that you've created your account and student accounts, it's important to know how assignments work. So assignments are best for individual projects because it creates a copy for each student, so they have their own copy. It puts you as a collaborator, and it creates a new folder and puts all those copies into that folder. In order to create an assignment, you'll need to create a project. So even if it's blank, you need to make a new project. And then from your My Projects page, you can click these three dots and say Create Assignment, which will bring up the assignment dialog, and it's just going to remind you that it's going to create a folder. You can choose to share through Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or with a link. If you use the link, you can just copy that link, and whenever your students click that link, we'll create a new copy for them and put that in the new folder. You can see your assignment folders underneath your projects. If I close my projects folder, and then I can scroll down and see my assignments, and inside this assignment folder, I can see 3 different copies where 3 different students are collaborators and they have their own copy where I am also a collaborator on that project. So if I click the studio button, I can open it up and see everything that they've created. Or I can just click right here and get an audio preview of what they've created so far. Now that you've seen how to create an assignment, which is best for individual assignments, let's look at the other way to share projects, which is through group collaboration. In order to make a group project, you'll use the invite feature and invite each member to that project. You can do this from outside the studio by clicking on these 3 dots and saying invite. Then I can type in the name of my partner or a student that I want to invite and invite them to the project. And I can invite as many students as I want. Just type their names in and send them the invite, and that's how I can create a group project. You can also invite from inside the studio. In order to do that, you'll want to come to this blue circle, open up the collaboration tab, click the plus sign, and then type in the names of your students or other teachers you want to add, and invite them. In this next section, we'll take a look at the studio basics. I'll give you a tour of the studio, talk about the basics of recording, and then get ready to make a song. So I'll show you a demo of loops and how you can use loops to make your first song. All right, time to get into the studio. So I'm just here on my projects page, and I can click Enter Studio, and that will bring me into the Soundtrap Studio. And it's gonna show me this template option. I've got the choice between a music template or a podcast template. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and choose podcast. And the only difference between these 2 templates are at the top, if I choose a podcast, you'll see that this timeline is in seconds and minutes, whereas if I chose music, it would be in musical beats and measure numbers. Then the other difference is my microphone by default with a podcast will have no effects on it. Those are the 2 main differences. So now let's take a second and just do a quick tour of the studio so you can see what all the buttons do. So I'm going to start on the top right, and I'm going to kind of work my way clockwise. So the first things to notice are these purple and blue buttons. The purple button is the Loops tab, where we have all our different loops, so you can find all these different instruments and styles of music as little musical bits. And then below that, you've got the Collaboration tab. This is where I can invite either students or other teachers or people that I want to collaborate with by clicking this button. And then I can invite them with their name or with an email. And then when they come into the project, I can chat with them here in this window. And then moving down, I've got the zoom in and zoom out buttons. And then I've got down here, I've got the controls for the metronome, so I can turn the metronome on and off. Click the gear to change the count in, the volume of the metronome, or the sound of the metronome right there. Here I have tempo, so this is a speed, and I can change it up and down. I can type it in, whatever I want, and I can even do tap tempo. So if I click 4 times here, 2, 3, 4, that's auto-detected my tempo, and it detected as 79, and I can move it up to 80 to make it a nice round number, but that's how that works. Right next to it, I've got the key control, so I can set the key before I bring anything in, or as soon as I start adding loops, it will detect the key of that loop and put the key there, and then I can always transpose from here. Right here, I've got all my transport controls, so record, go back to the beginning, rewind, play, and pause, and go forward. And here we've got a time code, so you can see where we are. Like if I move it to right here, we can see we're 7.2 seconds into this song or podcast. And then here I've got a master volume control, and then I've got the ability to go to transcripts. More on this later, but you can see that's where you would access it. And then up here on the top left, I've got the option to add a new track. So I can click that, and I've got all these different types of tracks I can add. I can add a voice and microphone if I want to record something, or I've got all these software instruments I can do, or I can do a guitar and bass amp if I want to plug in my guitar or my bass. I can also import a file, and that could be an audio file or a MIDI file. Another way to import a file is to just click it from here, this little button. It will allow me to import a file. I can browse loops, I can add a new track. Really all of these buttons right here are doubled. They're kind of shortcuts to other things that you can access a different way. That is just about it for the studio tour. Hopefully that gives you a general idea of where things are, and now we can dive into more detail on what they all do. In this section, I'm going to talk Recording 101 and walk you through a couple tips and terms. So the number one rule of recording is to always wear headphones. And headphones are important because they eliminate spill and feedback. Spill is when you pick up unwanted sound, and feedback is when you have this nasty sound produced when the mic is picking up the speaker sound. And feedback kind of sounds like this. Another tip is to always record in a quiet space, free of disruptions and noise as much as possible. Also, always do a sound check to avoid clipping. Clipping is distortion caused when the microphone signal is too loud. It sounds like this.
This audio is clipping. This audio is not.
Another important term is monitoring, and monitoring allows you to hear in real time what's being recorded. So with Soundtrap, we have a simplified monitoring system, and if you say you're using headphones, we'll turn monitoring on, and if not, we'll turn monitoring off. Keep in mind you can always manually adjust this, but this is how we address the monitoring question. In this video, I'm going to walk us through just the basics of recording, basically setting up your microphone, and a couple of the controls for recording. So the first thing I want to do, now that I'm in a blank project, is click Add New Track, say Voice and Microphones, and so now I've added that track, and we can see it right here. I could label it, so I might label this Mr. Hahn, and now before I'm ready to record, I have to make sure that Soundtrap is listening to the correct microphone. So to do that, I click this button right here, or this menu. In case you don't see this, in case you see something like this, come over here to this little microphone button, click that, and that will show the instrument, or show the microphone. So now if I click on this will show me all my different options. Normally you'll just be using your built-in microphone, but I'm going to go ahead and use my nice fancy Snowball, which is a USB microphone. And I'm almost ready to go, but I want to be super sure that my volume and my levels are going to be correct. So I can click this little button, which is my volume check, and I can say start test. And I'm just talking normally about how loud I'm going to talk, testing 1, 2, 3, and Soundtrap sets the level. Cool, good to go. And now I'm just going to drag this back, come down here and click record. So now I'm ready to record. I'm going to click the start recording button, and it's going to give me a count in. Keep in mind, it's not recording until that count in is done. As soon as it's done, you're off to the races. So here we go. Hey everyone, Mr. Hahn here. So we're going to take today and tomorrow to get comfortable with some basics of Soundtrap. we're going to work with loops and voice recording. Make sure to check your projects page to join the projects that I've invited you to, and I hope you enjoy making music with loops and recording your voice. Send me a message in the chat window if you have any questions or just want to show off your new creation. And there we go. I've made my voice recording. I can see it right here, and I can click save. And now I'm ready to share that with my students. If you're ready to export, you'll need to save, and then you'll notice this right here. This download button is going to change, and it's going to say mixing. So Soundtrap is in the background going to do some audio magic to mix and master this project and create an MP3 that you can then download. So it usually takes a minute or two to do that, and then you'll be able to click this button. So now it's done mixing, and I can click this button, and that will download my file. For me, it's downloading as a WAV, but you can always come in here and you can say export, and you can choose an MP3 file if you would prefer that. And there's one other way you can do it. If for some reason you want to export just one track and not the whole entire thing, you can do that. So I can go to this track, click these three buttons, and I can export that track, and then that will just export only this track right here. So if you want to download the whole thing, the final product, you download with this button. And if you want to just download a certain track, you can go to that track and then choose your export option from here. And that's it. Okay, so if you've made it this far, you should have your account set up, should have your students invited, you should have a little bit of an idea of how to move around the studio, and now what I'm going to show you is what I recommend you do with your students the first day, basically how to introduce them to Soundtrap. I recommend you use the loops feature to do it, and the reason for this is that loops are really easy to make progress quickly and have a nice successful moment. Students can very quickly put some loops together and see, wow, I made music, that's really cool. And it's important, I think, to give them that positive experience as their first experience with Soundtrap. And then from there, you can dive into more detail and talk about podcasting and all these other things, but I recommend starting with loops. So let's do it. I'm gonna go to the top right here and click on the purple Loops tab. And I'm gonna click this X to make sure I've cleared all my filters. And now we're just gonna do a super simple formula. 3 parts, drums, bass, piano. Those are the 3 parts I recommend. That gives you a full song, or at least the beginning of a full song. So I'm gonna click on beats, and this is gonna filter out everything, and I can see just beats. I'm actually gonna click favorites too, so I can see all the things that I've already gone through and click this little heart that I know that I like. And I can listen through by clicking right here, and I can go to the next one, go to the next one. I already know though that I like blop hop, so I'm gonna double click that, and we can let it play for a second. Cool, and I'm just gonna keep on going. So I've got my drum layer in, 1 down, 2 to go. Then I'm gonna click on bass and get my bass layer in. And again, I've got all these different bass options, but I know which one I want, which is baggy. So I'm gonna double click that. And then I've got one more layer to go. Remember, we're doing drums, bass, keys. So I click on piano, and again, I'm gonna go and find the ones I like. I guess I haven't favored this one, so I'm gonna go search it. It's called Dusty 11. It's Dusty because ooh, there we go. Very nice. Double click. And now let's hear what I've done. So I'm just gonna click this little button right here, which brings me back to the beginning, and hit play, and this is my beat. Cool. So that took me like a minute, maybe less than a minute, and I've got a song. I'm probably not going to win any Grammys, but it was quick and it was fast and it was fun. So that's how I recommend you start, is using loops. Come into the loops tab, put 3 layers together, drums, bass, keys. You can make variations on this, but that's kind of my go-to formula, and it's really easy to understand and really easy for students to have success right off the bat. There we go. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching this crash course. I hope it was helpful for you. If you want to continue learning, you can take our Certified Educator course, or if you want to share a similar course with your students, you can do so with this link. We also have the Soundtrap for Education blog, where we're sharing stories and projects and lesson plans and all kinds of useful resources on there, so check that out. And then we also have the Soundtrap for Education Facebook group, which we'd love to invite you to be a part of. Here we have Soundtrap teachers from around the world sharing their ideas and problem solving together. If you have any other questions or need some support, reach out to us at support@soundtrap.com and we'd be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.